There is no growth in comfort and no comfort in growth. Yet the big leaps are how careers are made and how businesses excel. So how do you master not knowing at all or feeling like an imposter? How do you have the conversations that will lead to trust and, of course, excellence? How do you take charge of the things that you can control? How do you thrive outside your comfort zone? That's what this podcast is about. I'm your host, Wanda Wallace, and it's time to get out of the comfort zone. Welcome to the conversation. All right, every once in a while, a book crosses my desk, and there are lots of books that cross my desk, where the presentation of the book and the question posed on the cover of the book really captures my attention. And what has happened for this particular episode is a book. In fact, this particular book has captured my attention. The title is The Last Book Written by a Human, Being Wise in the Age of AI. I think that question of what does it mean to be human in an age of AI is just a really fascinating question. And not only that, it's critically important for us to ponder at this moment in time, for leaders in every organization, every institution, and at every level. So my guest today is Jeff Burningham, and he spent his career investing in the future by launching businesses, backing entrepreneurs, and helping shape industries. But as artificial intelligence reshapes the world, he is really asking, what kind of future are we actually building? Now, and that's his book, The Last Book Written by a Human, is a really deeply personal exploration of the choices we face and what it means to embrace wisdom, connection, and real human evolution. And as Jeff likes to say, he's here not to predict the future, but to help shape it. I should say that Jeff's journey has taken him from boardrooms to political campaigns and a run for governor of Utah unsuccessfully, from the highs of entrepreneurial success to the depths of personal transformation. He's been a former bishop leading a congregation of over 500 people. And so he brings a whole wealth of perspective to this particular question: business, politics, family life, and spiritual life as well. Jeff, it's a pleasure to be talking to you.
Wanda, it is so beautiful to be with you. Having just met you, I think we're going to be friends here for years to come. So thank you.
I hope so. That would be a pleasure, because I am serious. This really captured my attention. So I want to start where I always start, which is why. Why did you write this book? You've got plenty of things to do in your life. You're leading successful businesses. You're helping start a ton of others. You had a lot going on. Why did you write this book?
Yeah, let me give you two quick answers to that. It's not so much why, Wanda. I felt like I had to. It wasn't even a choice. This book came through me. It had to be spoken. It felt like it had to come out. And so the honest answer is, if I was just looking at my balance sheet or how I wanted to spend my future, or how I maybe thought I would be spending my future, this is not it. A book was never on the path. It was never the plan. It was never the checklist. In fact, I'll just say real quickly, when I lost out of the gubernatorial race in Utah in the summer of 2020 into the pandemic, we all remember that summer, I had time and space for the first time in my adult life. And I've been an adjunct professor of entrepreneurship to thousands of college students. And I often tell them, with time and space, anything can be created. And so with this time and space, I've created this cosmic book, which again, wasn't on the roadmap. So that's the first answer I give. The second one, really quickly, why? I'm a father of four. I'm actually a grandpa. I have a 1-year-old grandson. I'm concerned about our future. I think that AI is a cosmic mirror to humanity, and I'm trying to make sure that it's pointed towards human flourishing instead of human division or destruction.
We certainly have a lot of, division, I would say, going, but it certainly feels that we're on the cusp of a world transformation that many of us could predict could go one way or the other way, and not clear kind of where that goes. So there's a lot of angst out there to be dealt with. Okay, so you have a sentence at the very beginning of the book that I think is pretty powerful. As machines become smarter, we must become wiser. What do you mean by that? The whole sentence.
Yeah, the Again, AI to me is a cosmic mirror. It's interesting. I've been on a lot of podcasts. Sometimes the host will ask, can't we just unplug it? Or why don't we just unplug it? And I often say, if that was a real option, maybe that would be the best option for humanity. But in the world we live in, with the global arms race around AI, it's not a real option. So therefore, AI is going to happen. It represents a large part of our future. So the question becomes, how do we as humans experience AI? How do we work with AI? How do we build AI in order to focus on human flourishing rather than maybe a bottom line, control, power, etc.? So that's the wisdom that I'm talking about. I'm talking about embodied human wisdom that we must bring. If AI is a cosmic mirror to humanity, which it is, because all it does, as you know, Wanda, is take all of recorded data of all time, how we interact with it individually, and then it reflects back to us what it sees. And a reflection can be a scary and a powerful thing. In that reflection, I believe that we as humans will be given the chance to change. And that's where wisdom comes from. I believe that wisdom comes through a heroic journey, let's say, that we're all individually on, as well as collectively on as a human race. And so I believe AI will turn us back to ourselves, or has the potential to do this, to rediscover and fall in love with the messiness and the beauty of what it means to be human. So this is the wisdom that I think we need to embody. This is the wisdom I think we need to develop AI with. And so that's what I'm talking about in that sentence. Yeah. I'm glad it struck you.
It did strike me. You say it in several different ways, but that particular sentence strikes me because I think it is on all of us to ask both, what does it mean to be human in this particular moment when the information, let me back up from this. So many of us define our identity based on what we know and how we know how to do it. Okay?
Yeah.
And secondarily, what we can achieve as a result of that. But I think we define our identity based on what we know and what we can do. And if knowing no longer is what defines us, because the computer will know better than I can ever hope to know, what does it mean now to be human? What is my identity about? Yeah.
Exactly. And I think these big questions of identity is what will cause us to face these in more interesting and introspective, heartfelt ways than we ever have before. When I lost out of the governor's race in the summer of 2020, I had nowhere to look but inside. And I think that's where we're going as humans. I talk about in the book how I had climbed my little mountain of success. I built several billion-dollar companies. I ran for governor, blah, blah, blah. Who cares? But I talk about how I got to the top of the mountain. And what I found there was a cold, howling wind, only void, and more void on top of that. The point is, getting all these things, or all the external things, Wanda, like you spoke about, did not answer all my questions. It didn't solve all my problems. It didn't bring the peace that I was hoping for. And I think the peace that is possible for mankind, it's only from going inside. I know it's another thing I tell my students, the most powerful ideas are often the most simple and therefore the most neglected. And this is one of those. What we are all looking for is inside of us already. So I think that AI will turn humanity, I'm speaking generally, or it could turn humanity into itself. We do the work that is there for each of us to do. We accept more fully who we really are, what reality really is, and then try to approach that with as much ease, love, and grace as possible.
Yeah. Throughout the book, you talk about a couple of themes. You just named them there. But this notion of compassion, that recognizing everybody is struggling in their own way. I don't care what else you see in their lives or believe should be in their lives. We all have our own struggles. and that compassion is critical, is essential part of what we do. And you also talk about, the experiences that we have, and like there's just several back to what it really means to be human, things that you keep coming, and love, this sense of caring about other people.
Yeah, for sure. I tell a story in the book where I'm sitting, okay, so I'm running a multi-billion-dollar real estate private equity fund. I'm investing $100 million in venture capital. I'm sitting on like 20 plus boards, for profit and nonprofit. I'm a young father of 4. I'm serving in my church, as you spoke about, my faith tradition. And for some reason, I decided to add MBA from my resume. Looking back, it's like, what in the hell was I thinking? But Wanda, again, I know what I was thinking. This is in the collective air that we breathe in America, whatever. We always think that if we do more, we can be more. And that's not always the case. So I talk about I'll say little addiction. I'm putting that in quotes because it might have been a big one. In addiction to doing. I had become a human doing. And in that, I had lost touch with my being. So when machines, like you said, when AI can do so much of what we're used to being able to do, when it can do it better than us, more efficiently, more cost effectively, more precisely, what is left for us as humans? It's time for us to return to our being. Now, let me just clarify, there will always be, as long as we're embodied souls on this earth, there'll be enough doing to be done. We travel, we podcast, we write books, we parent, we work, all the things. That's going to always be part of it. But how much of our being are we really bringing to that doing? I think that is the most powerful thing actually as humans that we can do, is bring our whole souls and being to whatever we're doing. And we've lost touch with that. And ironically, as is often the case, I think that the obstacle becomes the way here, and that AI becomes a crucible for humanity to pass through together in order to return to our being.
Right, to the being. All right, I want to take that, sounds very ethereal for a moment, but I want to put it into the world that I see day in and day out, because I think you're right about that. How many people, dozens of people that I coach who are stressed, ready to leave their job, a job they love, a manager that has been supportive, a career that's been very successful, and they want to leave because they can't get the next title. It's just doing more. Okay, point number 1. Point number 2, how many times do we go to a conversation, a meeting, and truly give 100% of our attention to the person who is speaking at that meeting? Okay, now I know that this is a deficit, because if it weren't a deficit, I wouldn't have a coaching practice. I think the reason people want coaches is they want somebody who actually listens. And even there, I have to struggle some days to make sure I'm really paying attention.
Yeah.
So this being, this attending to, this being present, this being been in the moment, really processing, thinking, listening, I think is just something we've let go.
I agree. And I think it's something that we will be painfully brought back to, or else, quote unquote. Like this is something that we need to return to. There is so much beauty in being, but we've lost touch with that. I've become a very religious meditator. I grew up Christian, as you said. I've become kind of a Buddhist here in my middle age. And a Zen practice is this idea that anything you do, even let's say doing the dishes, can be beautiful if you do it with intent and with your being. And let me just say, as someone who's practiced this for at least the last 5 years since the gubernatorial race, let me just say that it's true. Anything that we do, if we bring our presence to, can be beautiful. So that boring meeting that you're sitting in, that first of all, we need to have less meetings. We need to have smart meetings, but that's a whole nother subject and podcast. But regardless, it's up to us as humans to accept the reality we are in whether that is a meeting we don't want to be in, and then bring our being to it. I mean, that's what I think it is about. And in terms of of the person who's kind of trying to climb the ladder, I really encourage them to read this book. And I say in the book that everyone will take their own paths. Everyone needs to find their own answers. I'm not prescribing anything per se in the book. I'm trying to point humanity towards a positive outcome in the age of highly intelligent machines. And so climb your path if you must, but it's also unwise to not listen to people who have at least been to where you think you want to go. And like I said, there's nothing new up there. You could get that new title. You could get that new car, the new apartment. I'm making things up. Whatever you think is the new husband, the new wife, the new friends, you could get those things. And those might be blessings and they might not, by the way. But again, we need to stop looking outside of ourselves for validation, for acceptance. That kind of validation can only come from inside of ourselves. And that's the type of turning that I think this reflection of AI can cause humanity. Now, that doesn't come without, as you know, Wanda, as a coach, a lot of pain. Unfortunately, pain is often the motivator that humans need to change. But let me just say that, unfortunately or fortunately, I think that AI is going to bring a lot of pain here to humanity and again, act as a crucible for transformation, which is kind of what I lay out in the book.
Right. That this is a tool that will reflect either the best of ourselves or the worst of ourselves, I think you say, and the choice of what it reflects is up to us. The choice of how we use it to improve all of our lives is down to us. One of the things I also love about the book, Jeff, is you just ask, is like you tell these stories and then you ask really powerful questions for reflection. So, a story is 4 or 5 pages long and then there's this powerful question. You just go through and read the questions would be a really, really good insight. All right. So I want to check an understanding. You've got many, many, many stories about your life and your experiences there. And I see them all as stories about transformation. A transformation from doing to being, as we've just been talking about, from division and difference to more of acceptance and finding commonality, from striving to get somewhere to something that would look closer to flourishing, from individual orientation to human connectivity. All right. So why are this transformation so important to you?
Yeah, I think this is the quote unquote purpose of existence. I think we're all on a heroic journey. I kind of said that, Wanda, and I think that happens individually. Jeff is on his own heroic journey. Wanda's on her own heroic journey. And then I think collectively as humanity, we're on a heroic journey. The world is filled with diversity and difference. It makes life interesting and beautiful. However, one of the lies that we've been told as humans, and one of the lies that we've bought into too much, is that we are different, white, black, rich, poor, Hindu, Muslim, whatever, conservative, liberal, whatever the differences may be. Again, those differences bring diversity and beauty. But whenever we're with another human being, we always share more in common with them. We have more in common with them than different. Anytime we're with another human being. Now, social media, which I kind of call baby AI, it's the first kind of global experiment with the almighty algorithm, we might say, has caused a ton of division. And so we have to ask ourselves, if we layer on this godlike technology onto the fear, division, greed, and hate that is in our world now, what is it going to reflect back to us? What is it going to give us more of? But if we can bring what I believe is a much more fundamental reality, a much, let's say, deeper truth, which is our divine unity, the divine oneness that unites all of humanity, what beautiful future could we build together if we were to focus on that? So this is the heroic journey. The book is laid out kind of in 4 sections, which follows both a hero's journey, as well as the disruptive forces that technology plays. Those sections are disruption. Number one, we know that change is the only constant and it can be painful. Then we move to reflection, which is, I think, the stage that we're moving into. We're being disrupted via AI and we're starting to reflect on it. We're starting to say, wait a second, what is this? Why is it here now? And how will it affect us? Eventually, we enter the unknown. We lean into our hero's journey. That's when transformation occurs, which is the third section. And then the fourth section is when the hero returns with wisdom. And that's the section that I call evolution. And I focus a lot about evolving our institutions, reforming religion, conscious capitalism, a new political movement. I talk about a human political movement. And so that's the flow of the book. And that's, I think, the way that we gain wisdom. And it's the collective and individual heroic journey that each of us are on, Wanda. Isn't it fun? Beautiful, terrible, and hard all at the same time.
All right, let me see if I can just reflect this back. So there is the notion of recognizing that we are in transformation and change, and that is uncertain, scary, and painful.
Yes.
And not going to change. That is reality. Second is reflection. What does this mean? What do I want to do about it? How do I want to do it? And then there is the moving into something like transformation or evolution or becoming, approaching it in a different way. All right. One of the interesting things I thought was fascinating in here is you have this little section in the middle there talking about anomalies, the pattern breakers in the world, the black sheep, you even call them at times. And the notion that these people whom we might want to reject as not following the rules might actually be some part of salvation. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I'm speaking to the pattern breakers right now in my heart of hearts with you, Wanda. We need pattern breakers. We need pioneers, these explorers that go to the edge of consciousness, that go to the edge of our human understanding and grapple with the big questions around AI and existence itself. And the reason we need these pattern breakers is that they create new patterns that other humans can follow, that can, like I said, lead to transformation and evolution. And so, so often we're able, or we label these risk takers as black sheep or crazy people or, pattern breakers, whatever you want to say. But I think we're living in a time of anomaly. Obviously, COVID was a massive example of that. The rise of AI is another example of that. And so these are the pattern breakers that we need to embrace, even encourage, maybe listen to a little bit and follow in order to create new patterns that will serve us in a whole new world. I believe that a new earth, is coming, like that we're creating a new earth, a new humanity even. And this happens via a wise pattern breaking and then following those patterns to level us up, to step us up. I think that AI can act as what I call in the book, like almost think of a computer, like a system-wide upgrade in human evolution and in human existence and experience.
So if you could you paint a view of what can you give me a graphic understanding of a vision of a way in which AI could really transform us to be a better human society?
I think what you're asking is about like specific problems.
Or just any view or vision or any kind of idea you have about what this might look like.
Okay, well, let me try to hit both of them real quick. Number one, you think of in religious traditions, whatever religious tradition it is, but there's always this Zion-like community or nirvana or heaven. I talk about how I believe AI is a sort of judgment day for humanity. Like I said, it's a reflection of us, and it can help us to become more unified and more one. One of the last chapters in the book is about putting the pieces of the cosmic puzzle back together again. So that is the quote unquote, I'll say, Wanda, non-trivial game that I think we're playing together. That's the puzzle that we're trying to solve. And so that's the very high level esoteric idea of what I'm painting. Think of heaven, nirvana, Zion. I think that AI can help us get there. Now, to bring it down to maybe a couple more practical ideas, obviously education, like I'm a believer that talented is distributed equally around the globe, roughly. I've traveled to 60 plus countries, and I've seen that we all are a lot more alike than different, like I said. And I've seen that talent is evenly distributed, but opportunities are not. And so, what a leveler of education and opportunity can AI be? You think of up and coming students in third world countries or other places where education has been an issue, is not as good. Man, to have AI as a companion and a tutor is absolutely unbelievable. So there's one specific example. Let me give one more just real quick. Obviously, AI is able to take all data known to mankind and to never forget a piece of information if it doesn't need to, or not told to. So it can remember everything, never forget anything. And because of that, it is able to pick up patterns that no single human could get from the amount of data that we have. Therefore, I look for massive advancements in healthcare in the coming years based on massive amounts of data that AI is able to ingest, decipher, and then, like I said, reflect back to us. Oh, have you noticed A leads to B? And we're like, whoa, we never saw that tire correlation. And therefore, again, then we can take that data or that information, we can pivot, we can change our behavior, and we can evolve and grow as humanity. So there's a big picture view and then two kind of more tactical. Yeah.
Right. And there's a whole bunch of ideas that people have circled around recently about how AI can help us recognize patterns, notice things that we have ignored before, and do something better as a result of it. I want to come back to one thing that you said, which is I want to come back to this notion of the commonality, what connects us all around the world. And I just want to highlight two of my favorite people on change, Adam Kahane and John Ott, both who have been involved in some massive, significant changes and their own worlds, their own ways, and both of whom will say, as will everybody else I know say, that change starts when we bring people with widely different perspectives together and we identify the commonality we have. And usually it's a common goal, even if I might like to kill you before, literally, at the end of this conversation, but we can all agree that there's a thing that we can solve together. That commonality is what I think we have to come back to over and over and over again. And you've highlighted that as well as in this process. Okay, Adam, my last one. For anybody who's bought into the argument that, yes, I need to think about what it means to be more human, where would you have them start? What is the journey you would want? What do you want them to do? A, B, C, D?
Yeah, again, this can get kind of high level and or tactical, but let me just say, again, the most powerful ideas are the most simple and therefore the most neglected. The biggest daily practice that I've integrated since the gubernatorial race 5 years ago has been meditation. There's not a right way to meditate. I know can be difficult. I know you think you can't sit still or you don't want to. I know you think there's some goal. There is not. Sit quietly, doing nothing. Just start with 10 minutes a day. If you can get consistent at this, I meditate for 20 minutes a day. If you can get consistent at this, what will happen is you will start to go inside. You'll start to understand yourself better. You'll start to see the work that you have to do more clearly. And you'll start to be able to work to heal yourself, to overcome the trauma or the hidden patterns that are holding you back. You'll basically be able to, quote unquote, reprogram yourself to be the better source of you. So my advice to start is to take time alone. The most paradoxes are so interesting. And this age of hyper speed and everything now, we need to return to a stillness and a slowness, a presence that we have lost in our modern world. And I talk about it, I'll just mention real quickly in the book, I talk about 3 universal teachers that can turn us back to those things. And just very briefly, they are, number 1, our bodies. We neglect our bodies. We don't listen to them nearly enough. And there is wisdom within our bodies that we don't hear or listen to because we're too busy. Number 2, our families. All of us came from flawed families, some more than others, but family and or human relationship in the age of machines will be critical because real human relationship isn't in the way, it is the way to transformation. So anyways, I ask people to hold on to those real human relationships. And the third one is nature. Mother Earth grounds us. It has a static system that we can plug into, that we can reconnect with. And so I encourage the readers to return to nature as much as possible, to move their bodies, to do flow activities that they love within nature that will help connect them. So there's a bunch of ideas of where I think we can start to return to ourselves, to become more wise. And of course, there are tactical ways that we can use AI in better ways than others. But those are the real human-like ideas that I think we can return to, and it would be well worth our efforts.
So if I just summarize this, heaven forbid that I can capture all of these ideas clearly, but the notion is that we have to return to the uniqueness of our humanity, which is about who we are as individuals, healing ourselves. You said earlier that what we're seeking outside is actually within. And one way of doing that is with meditation. Another way is returning to stillness in general, and our body, listening to our body, listening to the people who matter in our lives, like our families, our friends, our closest relationships, and nature will help us return to who we are. 1.
That's a good summation. Yes.
All right. 2 is a connection to a broader sense of humanity. People who are not my immediate inner circle, with whom I may think I don't share much in common, but to start to recognize the commonality that we all share as humans on this earth. Okay?
Amen. Can I say a word to that? Or
yes. Go right ahead. Yes, go ahead, please.
Wanda, we are all fellow travelers. I don't care if you're conservative or a liberal. I saw this in my gubernatorial race. I had political event after political event where neighbors or people in the same community were fighting over lesser things when really they cared a lot more about the same things, which was a brighter future for their children. Obviously, wage increases, whatever the things they cared most about, they often held more in common than different. There are powerful forces on this earth, meaning media, political parties, whatever the case may be, that gain from division. They gain from dividing us. But there is much more power within the human race when we recognize and understand that we always have more in common and that we are fellow travelers in this embodied crazy existence, this crazy ride that we're all on together.
Yeah, we are together. It's like I can't do it without everybody else is coming with me, whether I'm happy about that or not. They're on the same planet with me, whether that's a good thing or not a good thing. All right. So there's recognize the common humanity. And then there is to look for the anomalies, the pattern breakers, the breakthrough ideas, the whatever that may look like, and pay attention to them, reflect on them, and begin to change. I think the last piece is to begin to think about how we change our organizations, our institutions of all forms, as you rightly said.
Absolutely.
Before. Okay.
Yeah, and when we look at the pattern breakers, I don't know, Wanda, if you remember the chapter about jumping the fence with my wife, Sally.
Yes.
We were in Venice and we were late to see the best view in St. Marco's Square. Literally, the gate had just closed. We were young, in our early 20s. And I just jumped the fence and said, let's go. There were some Spaniards on the other side saying, hey, we'll help you. And Sally, my wife, my new bride, we've been married about a year, just was like, oh my gosh, what are you freaked out? I helped her over the fence and we got a great view and it all worked out. My point is, we need to help each other. Like, it wasn't about jumping over the fence and then leaving someone behind. It also wasn't just staying on this side of the fence because that's what we've been told and that's what we need to do. It's about wisely helping each other cross those fences. And I think one of the greatest ways we can do that, you mentioned at the end, was through evolving our institutions. I think that all institutions will need to look at themselves in the mirror and ask themselves, how am I focused on human flourishing and survival and helping humans versus enabling machines or enabling division, enabling hate, enabling fear? I know this sounds a little woo-woo, but that's where we need to go. Let me just say, this is where we need to go. We could I talk about the old game versus the new game, Wanda, in the book. We can triple down on the old game of hate, fear, division, greed. If you lay on top AI technology on top of that old game, I just don't think that our future is as bright as we really want it to be for our children and grandchildren.
You said something there that I think is really, really powerful, and that is the notion of focusing as a leader on how everyone around you can flourish, as opposed to how much more can I get out of you?
Yes.
Productivity gain, output, accuracy, whatever you want to call it, all of which I recognize somebody is pressing you to do, but to think about how you help people flourish. If we just embrace that as a leader, I think it would make a massive difference.
Amen. That in and of itself could be its own heroic journey. You're basically maybe sacrificing that's better for you think is better for you, for the betterment of someone else or for society. And so I think that there are going to be ample opportunities in the decade ahead for religious leaders, political leaders, and certainly business leaders to make the right choice for humanity. Our leaders are a reflection of us. And so we as humans need to change and then make sure, do what we can, each of us, to elect and to promote the types of leaders that will make the harder long-term decision that is in the best interests of humanity than the leader who's going to make the politically expedient decision in order to get reelected, next election. We just can't have that short-term thinking. This, you could say, is the heroic journey of laying your life down for your friends, doing what's better for them than for you. And again, this interesting age of highly intelligent machines is going to be an opportunity for all of us to exercise these choices, to make good choices, and to lean on the best of human wisdom.
Well, I don't think there's anything else I can say to that. You just did a brilliant kind of concluding sentence. So I'm going to stop right there. Jeff, what an inspiring book. The stories are fun to read. The questions for reflection are fabulous. The book is called The Last Book Written by a Human, Becoming Wise in the Age of AI. Jeff Burningham. Jeff, if somebody wanted to reach out to you, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, probably just go to my website, jeffburningham.com. I have very mixed feelings about social media, but I also am trying to reach to where the people are. So I'm pretty much at every social media platform, including a Substack I just opened a week ago, but at Jeff Burningham. And the book's available anywhere books are purchased. Anywhere you can think of, you can buy the book. I hope people pick it up. And I wrote it to be a conversation starter, Wanda, like this. So I want to hear what you think about it. Maybe this will grow into a movement, but I want to hear your thoughts after you've read the book. Let me know what you think.
All right. That's fantastic. We'd love to hear your thoughts as well. So reach out to us at outofthecomfortzone.com. Leave a message. We'd love to hear from you anytime. I think this is a great opportunity for leaders within an organization to read the book and do a book discussion about what does it mean and how are we. I just think there's huge opportunities for that, regardless what the institution is. Jeff, what a fascinating conversation. What a fascinating question you've posed. I love the way you're leading us through it. Thanks for the conversation today.
Thank you, Wanda. It was my blessing to be with you today.
Likewise, and I wish you great success with the book. I wish all of us great success with the book. I think it is our book, even though you're the writer of it. All right, leave us a
This is the message for the moment. We said that. Like, this is the message for our moment in time. We need to rise to the challenge. Yeah.
That's right. Leave us a comment on outofthecomfortzone.com. We'd love to hear from you. There's also a brand new Instagram account at Out of the Comfort Pod, as well as a YouTube channel with lots more materials at Out of the Comfort Pod. And join us next week for another episode. See you then.
Thank you for joining us today. Tune in for another edition next week with Dr. Wanda Wallace on the Voice America Business Channel. Reach outside your comfort zone this week.